Hello and welcome to Grace Creative's online session number 3. My name is Desiree and I am the director of Grace. And today we're going to be learning how to make these cute little tiny hats. So I'm just going to go over all of the materials that you need in order to do this project, and we'll go ahead and get started. Starting with this side, you're going to need a pair of scissors, a Dixie cup. Different sizes will work. Depending on the size, you'll have a bigger or smaller hat, but really any size paper or plastic will do. You're going to need twine. I recommend medium-sized twine rather than the super thin or super thick. That'll just make your hat look a little bit better. You're also going to need a hot glue gun full with glue. And I always recommend putting your hot glue gun on a plate or a piece of cardboard. It has a tendency of leaking, so that way you don't ruin your carpet or your table with hot glue leaking on it. And next we're going to need ribbon here, so just different shapes and sizes. String can work as well. This is just going to be used for the brim of the hat for the decorative ribbon around the hat. You're also going to need these little flowers here. These are just little paper flowers, different shapes and sizes. You can find them at craft stores. You might have some flowers or something around the house that would work as well. You can be crafty with that. And then you're also going to need these little brads, and that'll be used as this little centerpiece for the flower here. So we're gonna go ahead and get started with the first step. So the very first thing that you're gonna need is to grab your scissors and just start cutting the cup from the bottom to, or from the top to the bottom, and you're gonna cut it until you have about a ½ inch left to the top, and you're just going to cut it all the way around so that you have little strips. So just take a couple minutes and cut your cup all the way around so that you have these little straps, and I will give you the next step. So hopefully you were able to finish cutting the strips on your cup. I finished mine and it looks like this. I'm just going to go ahead and move on to the next step. It's pretty simple. You're just going to push the strips outward and lay it flat down on the table. And then using your hot glue gun and twine, you're going to dab a little dot of hot glue right in the middle of the top of the cup, like so. Then you're going to take your twine and put it right down there in the middle. Try not to touch the hot glue because you will burn yourself. You're just going to let that dry for just a second. And then after it's kind of set in there, you're going to take your twine and you're just going to kind of shape it into a circle around that initial start piece. And for this whole next section, you're going to need your hot glue gun on hand as well as your twine, and you're just going to use your hot glue and your twine to cover the entire top portion of the cup. And I recommend just taking the hot glue and putting a dab every so often, maybe like one per circle. You don't need it along all of the twine, but just maybe 1 or 2 dabs per circle just so that it's nice and flat. And again, it's just going to go in a circular motion so it starts looking like this, and you're going to cover the entire top portion of your cup all the way out to the base here. So obviously, depending on how wide of a brim that you want, you can make your twine go all the way out to the outer edges here. If you want more of like a sombrero looking hat, or if you want more of a sun hat with a little bit of a shorter brim, then maybe you only want to take it to halfway. A couple of the tricky portions you might run into is along the top here. What I like to do is just pull a piece of twine and put it all along the top portion of that cup. But yeah, just take a few minutes and just glue the entire top section of your cup, and I will come back with the next step. Awesome. I hope you had fun doing that little portion of your cup, and I hope you didn't burn yourself. Hot glue can be a little bit dangerous. You want to make sure that you let it dry and pay attention to where you put it down so that you don't end up burning yourself. But I was able to finish the whole section of my hat, and it looks like this, and you can see the little ends of my cup are still hanging over the edges. And so obviously the next step is pretty straightforward, and it's just going to be to cut off the extra portions of the cup that are sticking out along the edges. And again, if you wanted to, you could take the twine all the way out to the edges of the cup. You just end up with a really wide-brimmed hat, but I'm going for more of like a sun hat looking hat. So I'm gonna go ahead and cut off the strips here. So just take a few minutes, take your scissors and just cut the ends of the cup off so that you can't see it when you look directly at the hat. And after you do that, I'll go ahead and give you the next step. So before we move on to the final few steps of this project, I did want to just take a few minutes and talk to you about GRACE and what we do. GRACE is a registered nonprofit that serves trafficked, exploited, and at-risk youth ages 12 through 21. And as a part of this video series, we did want to include some education about child sexual exploitation, how it happens, and give you some facts and statistics so that you can better fight this issue in your community and in your life. So first of all, I wanted to share that the average age of entry into sexual exploitation in the US is between the ages of 12 and 14 years old. This may seem really young, but if you think about it from a trafficker's point of view, the younger that they get them, the longer that they can use them. So if they're brought in really young, they're going to have years and years of viable years to be trafficked. The next thing I wanted to go over is how youth are brought into sex trafficking, which is most often through relationship building. A lot of people think that these kids are just kidnapped off the streets, which it does happen, but more often than not, these youth are brought in through relationship building. And there's a few terms that we use here. One is called boyfriending, the other is called grooming. Boyfriending is basically the idea that the trafficker will pose as a boyfriend first and slowly build that relationship and that trust before asking them to start performing sexual acts. The next term that we often use is called grooming, and that's just known as a period of time where they're building relationship with the youth with the ultimate goal of exploiting them and trafficking them later on. So yeah, those are just a couple of facts and statistics that you can know just to be better equipped to know when it's happening, and so that you can avoid those types of situations and inform the people around you about trafficking. So we're getting really close to being done here. I'm just going to give you the final couple of steps of this project. I got all my little ends cut off and it looks like this. You can tell underneath that it's a cup, but hopefully you'll find a fun way to use this hat so you can not stare at this side and you get to see this side. But the next step of this project is just to choose some ribbon or some string. Like I said, if you don't have this exact type of ribbon at home, you can also use string that you have. But all you're going to do is you're going to take your ribbon or string and kind of measure around the base of your hat here. So mine's about right there. So I'm going to take that ribbon and then cut it. You want to overlay it just a little bit. It's always better to have too much than too little. But just measure that out and then use your scissors and cut it. And then again, using your hot glue gun, you're going to glue this ribbon down just along the base of the hat. So just put a little dab of glue there on the base, put your ribbon down. And on this one, I do like to just put a whole strip of hot glue just so that the ribbon stays down and stays nice and tight. So just kind of take that hot glue and do a little line all along the base of your hat. Get that ribbon down. I really like these polka dots that I chose here. It kind of reminds me of a hat that my mom would wear, so that's why I chose the polka dots, because she likes polka dots. But I'm just gonna, like I said, glue that down so it's all the way around. It's okay if it overlaps a little bit. You can always cut it down if it ends up being too much. So just get that glued down so that it looks like this. I'm really liking my hat. It's looking really cute. I'm excited about this. And then just to move right along to the next step, you should have some fun, cute little decorative flowers, different shapes and colors. I think I'm gonna go with a white one. I just like how the white looks next to the polka dot ribbon there. So I think I'm gonna go with this kind of bigger white flower. So you're gonna take that white flower and then your little brad here, and very carefully you're gonna stab through the flower and the ribbon into the cup. So this, you might need to put a little bit of force in here. Make sure that your fingers aren't directly behind the brad because you don't want to stab yourself. And another thing that might help is to take, if you struggle with it, you might want to take like a safety pin or something and do a hole even before you poke it through. But mine just went through pretty easily here. So and again, like the end pops out, you can see just barely on the other side, kind of pops out, and then you can take the end of that brad and tighten it down on the inside so it's nice and secure. And there you have it. The hat is complete. Super simple, fun, easy project. I actually discovered after I made this project, because I always like to do functional art, I was trying to think of what I could use this for, and I had two ideas. One was to make like a candy jar, attach it to like the top of a mason jar. I think it would actually fit on the top of a baby food container, and you can fill that with candy and then just kind of set this on the top. The other thing I discovered is that it fits pretty perfectly on top of a can as well. So you can use it as, yeah, just a little lid to put on the top of your can if you go to the beach or something like that. You can have a cute little hat on your can so you know which one's yours. So that completes our third online Grace Creative session. We thank you very much for tuning in, and we hope to see you next time.